Hey guys, it's Michael from Ekids, and in August we are studying about obedience. Now, last week we studied about the Bible and about how we should be obedient to the Bible. Well, this week we did something different. We continued to talk about obedience, but we did it right here in front of the entire audience with the adults and the teens and the kids combined. And what we did is we talked about how baptism is something that we should do to be obedient. And we also talked about how, of course, salvation is something we should do to be obedient. So we talked about a few scriptures that the Bible tells us to get baptized. And we talked about how Jesus was baptized and he told us to be baptized. So being baptized is, well, something that we should do. And then I talked about why we get baptized. Like, what does it mean? So we talked about how you are alive and then you die, and then you can be resurrected and live with Jesus. Because Jesus lived and he was crucified, dead, buried, and then he resurrected. So we see this whole dumped idea of being alive, being dead, and being resurrected. But there's something else that's very interesting. See, with baptism, it represents what happens to you in salvation. How you are alive, how you are yourself. You're in the flesh. You are, well, you. But see, when you give your life to Jesus, something happens. You die to the old you, and you become something new, a new creature. So baptism represents all those things. Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. Your future death, burial, and resurrection. The death, burial, and resurrection of mankind. And how you can become a new creature by dying to yourself and becoming something new. Now, the important part is, how does this all happen? Yes, baptism represents these cool things of death, burial, and resurrection. We're told to get baptized. But when and why and how does this work? Well, first, we have to be saved. Now, saved is a word that we throw around in churches. So what do we mean? Well, you're saved from a couple of things. You're saved from, yes, hell, and you're also saved from yourself. So there's a change that happens in you through salvation. And here's how it works. Pastor Phil has got a great thing that rhymes that I love to use to talk about what salvation is. Believe and receive. So, what do we believe? We believe that Jesus was born of a virgin. He lived this perfect life. He claimed that he was God, and they killed him for that kind of claim. Both the Jews and the Romans really didn't like who he was, so they killed him. He died for you, for me. That wasn't the end of the story. We believe that he not only was buried, but he resurrected from the grave. He ascended into heaven, and he is, in fact, God. So since Jesus is God, he has every right, every privilege, every ability to forgive you of sin and to save you from hell. And he will. And what he asks is that you do a couple of things. He asks that you call upon his name, and that you ask for forgiveness of those sins, because we know that we're sinners because Romans says so, because Paul wrote Romans and he tells us as much. So we admit that we're sinners, we ask forgiveness of those sins, and we call upon the name of the Lord and we're saved. And then we can become baptized. Now, the way this really works is through a prayer. You can call it the sinner's prayer, you can call it whatever you want, but really, to receive this salvation, we really start with communication with God, and communication with God is prayer. And so you pray something like this. You might pray, "Dear Jesus, I ask that you would forgive me of all the things that I've done, and I ask that you would just save me. And I do this because I believe that you lived a perfect life, that you died for me, and that you resurrected, proving that you're God, and that you did all these things for me. And Father, just forgive me. I just call upon your name. Just save me and help me to have a relationship with you from this day forward. Amen." Something simple like that is maybe called a sinner's prayer. But begin this relationship with Jesus with a prayer like that. But that's not the end. See, we continue our relationship with Jesus every single day. This is a lifetime thing. Yes, there's a moment in time in which you are saved. But see, this Christian life is a life, not a moment. It's not an event. It's a life change. You become a new creature. And that's what we talked about right here on Sunday to your kids and to you if you were here. So thank you for listening, and please, please, please talk to your kids about salvation. And if your kids understand salvation and if they're ready for it, talk to them about baptism. We're not trying to force your kids to be baptized. But what we want is for your kids to learn about Jesus and to be obedient in their own time. I don't want your kids to grow up someday and say, yeah, I said this prayer and I just got dunked and I'm good to go, and they never started a relationship with Jesus. So please partner with me and let's talk to our kids about salvation and baptism and about living a life for Jesus, living a life for others. Anyway, guys, I love you. Have a great week. Bye.